Welcome back to Idiots One Podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Bailey.
Bailey, before we start today, I want to have a little talk with you.
Okay, what you got for me today, Taylor?
Well, I got a story.
Okay, I like stories.
Got an after-hours story.
Okay, I like after-hour stories.
After-hour stories are great, but anyway, so I'm on Tinder.
Tinder?
Tinder, yeah.
That's not the dating app I would expect for you.
What would you expect? Like Facebook dating, Bumble, Plenty of Fish,
Yeah, something
Match.com?
like that.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm swiping right. It's like 8 o'clock at night, and I match with this girl.
Okay,
And she looks pretty good in the picture. I'd say that she was a solid 7 out of 10.
that's really good for someone like us who are about fives.
Right. But she was a 7 out of 10, so we're talking. You know, I hit her with the classic crunchy or smooth peanut butter.
And she hit you with that crunchy naturally.
Naturally, if she had said smooth, we probably would have unmatched immediately.
Okay, continue.
But we're sitting there talking, and she tells me, you know, do you want my number? And gives it to me. And I'm like, oh, a little aggressive, but okay. So then we start texting, and as we're texting, out of the blue, she goes, do you want to meet up in person? And I'm like, damn, I've only known you for 3 fucking hours. But sure, why not? Let's have fun.
Of course.
I mean, I haven't really been adventurous or whatever. So she says, I know this great bar. Gives me the name of it.
Okay.
I go, okay, so I Google it, trying to figure out where it's at. It turns out it's a dive bar.
Is it local?
Yeah, it's local. It was in the place where we live.
Tulsa?
Damn it. Yeah, whatever. It was in Tulsa. Anyway, so we go to this bar. I arrive a little bit early. I get a seat, you know, text her, hey, I'm inside, you know, when I see you, I'll wave at you. She comes in and I wave at her. She looks the same in her pictures as she does in real life.
That's amazing.
It was pretty fucking good. So we're sitting there having this discussion. We get some drinks ordered, and all of a sudden she starts talking about scars.
That's a strange first date conversation.
Yeah, if I was to make a list of inappropriate things to talk about on the first date, she would nail all of them on the head.
All of them?
Yeah, she got really bad.
Okay.
Because we're sitting here talking about scars, and she's like, some people can really pull off scars, you know, when they cut themselves. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, that sounds like, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah, I thought this person needs psychological help because she was talking about how sometimes they look good, sometimes they look bad. It just depends on the pattern of the cuts and stuff. And I'm like, you need help.
Yeah.
I ordered more drink, and then I started ordering because, you know, normally I'm a beer person, but this conversation was going so horribly that I was like, we need to order shot.
Right.
So I started ordering shots, and she's like, shots, and has a fun time. And then she goes to like the table next to us because she's a little bit drunk at this point and was like, do you guys want shots? I'll buy you shots. And I'm like, okay.
So she's like a generous lady. That's a plus, even if she's a little weird with the scars and stuff.
She's a psychotic social butterfly. That's what she is. But she's going around and talking to these people, and I'm like, wow. She's talking to a lot of people, talked about some weird, fucked up shit.
Okay.
That's, you know, kind of inappropriate. Obviously has some kind of psychological issues I just don't want to deal with. I need to leave.
Right.
But the problem is my back is to the door.
So she'll see you if you try to dip.
Right. So I say, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And she goes, are you leaving? And I'm like, what?
Damn, she knew?
Dude, she's psychotic. Of course she knew.
I guess it probably happens a lot.
And I'm like, no, I'm not leaving. And she goes, really? And I say, yeah, here. So I tell her, you know, here are my fucking car keys. I'm just going to lay them on the table. That way I have to come back. I cannot leave.
She didn't steal your car, right?
No, she didn't steal my car.
Okay.
But she snatched those motherfuckers up and put them in her pocket. And I was like, okay, I didn't leave my house key on there, just my car keys, because I was like, I can report it stolen if I have to. That's fine. Okay. I go to the bathroom. As soon as I get in there, some dude comes in, and I'm just splashing water on my face, trying to psych myself up, being like, you know, you can still get laid. It's okay. Forget the things that were just talked about. She's a pleasant girl to be around. Then this dude just starts like explosive diarrhea all over the toilet, I guess. I don't know, because as soon as I heard it, I was like, I need to leave. So the night's going pretty shitty. I come back, and she's making out with some dude.
And your keys are still in her purse.
Yeah, my keys are still in her purse.
That's horrible.
I was like, fuck. So now I have to go up and talk to him because I was like, that's my out. But it's not my out because I need my keys. So I go up to her and I'm like, hey, can I have my keys? And she goes, what? And I'm like, can I have my keys? Because obviously you're busy. I'll leave you to it. I just want to go home. And the dude says, do you have a fucking problem? And I'm like, dude, I don't have a problem. My problem, I guess, would be I don't have my keys and want to go home. And he goes, she doesn't have your keys. Fuck off. And I'm like, yes, she does. It's in her purse. And then I described them perfectly to her. And then she's like, yeah, I guess. Here. Throws them at me. And I'm like, thank you. And the dude goes, shut up, bitch. And I'm like, oh. And in my mind, I'm like, I just need to leave. I just need to go home. But I'm like, what did you say? Boom. Sucker punches the fuck out of me and hits me, and I knock myself, like, knocks me out as I go down. And I'm not thinking anything because I'm knocked out.
Naturally.
But I wake up.
Okay.
And I'm like, fuck, where am I? And so I'm looking around, and luckily my wallet's still in there. The bartender goes, yeah, you've been out for about 5 minutes. And I was like, shit. Okay, that's okay. Everything's good. Start to go home. And as I'm like walking out to my car, this fucking homeless person comes up to me.
Okay.
And they're like, do you have any change? And I'm like, no. And he goes, come on, don't be a dick. Do you have change or not? And I'm like, let me check. So I have a 20 in my wallet.
Okay.
Because sometimes I carry cash. If I do, it's in increments of 20 or whatever. Have it in my money clip in my wallet. As I go to pull it out and hand it to him, a fucking gust of wind comes out of nowhere and blows it away. And I'm like, are you fucking serious?
This seems like a series of unfortunate events.
You know, you're going to tell me that it's not true, but it is. I promise you, okay?
Okay.
I promise you, because I was just trying to do something nice for this homeless dude. And then he looks at me and goes, you're an asshole, and walks off. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? I'm getting, blamed for everything. So then what ends up happening is I just get in my car and I go home.
Okay.
And I go to bed.
I mean, that story reminds me a lot of our movie today.
What's our movie today?
Oh, it's actually also called After Hours.
Oh, shit. You mean the album by The Weeknd?
No, I mean the movie by Martin Scorsese.
Oh, who directed it? You mean it was written by Joseph Minion?
Yes.
Or Minion?
Yeah, but directed by
Martin Scorsese. No, it's a very good movie. If I had to summarize this movie, I would say a word processor meets a girl and decides to take a chance and meets her at a coffee shop, goes back to her place, and then has the worst night of his life, where the whole time he was just thinking about how much he wants to go home.
No, I mean that's a pretty apt summary.
Oh, could you give me something else?
Well, I mean, I would just add in that it's it's a dark comedy and it's got a very like surreal vibe.
Yeah, I got this surrealism. If you were to rate it, what would you give it?
So this is really hard because I looked online and saw various ratings, and I've seen people rate it, ones, and I've seen people rate it 10s. And I think that it's because depending on what you're looking for, this movie can hit every single like hole you have or miss them all. But for me, I would give it probably like a 4.5. I thought it was really good. It was very interesting.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 5.
A straight 5.
Straight 5. So the first time I watched this, I was gonna give it a 4. If I had to give it a rating, I'd give it a 4. But then I watched it again. I've seen it a few times, and every time I watch it, it just seems to get better.
Okay.
So that's why it's a 5.
So I've only seen it the one time, so that might be why my score isn't as high as yours.
Well, I mean, that's okay. What do you think Roger Ebert gave it? Because Roger Ebert did actually watch this movie.
What year did he review it?
The year it came out.
Probably low then. If he reviewed it the year it came out, because it did poorly critically when it released.
No, he had like 1985 on it. But what do you think?
If I had to guess in 1985, I would say probably a 2 or a 3. But if it was after like 2000, I would say probably a 4, since that's his highest.
Yeah, he gave it a 4. It's actually on his list of like top 100 movies of all time, top 200 movies. It's one of his favorites.
I mean, no, that doesn't surprise me. I just feel like had he watched it when it came out, it would have been lower probably, because a lot of people didn't perceive it very good initially.
Well, and here's the problem I have with Roger Ebert is that sometimes he gives really bad movies good ratings, and sometimes he gives really bad movies good ratings,
You just said the same thing twice.
I did. So the problem was, as soon as I was saying it, it came out and I was like, oh shit, I can't do that. But I did. I fumbled with it. It's okay. You know what I meant.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, he gave it a 4 out of 5. So he likes it a lot.
You mean a 4 out of 4?
Yeah. Okay. Does not matter.
No.
But you want to get straight into it?
Yeah, let's go.
So I love this movie.
Okay.
I really do. There's a lot of really good scenes in here. I think that the first thing that we need to start with is the score, soundtrack.
The score is awesome. It starts with, isn't it, oh no, I don't remember. I want to say it was one of the big, like, Beethoven symphonies, but it might not be Beethoven. It might be,
I don't think it's Beethoven. I think it's what the dude composed. But the interesting part that I don't know if you caught, the way that Martin Scorsese did this whole movie, including the soundtrack, was to kind of like mimic Hitchcock. And I know how much you like Hitchcock, so this whole thing sounds Hitchcocky.
Yeah, no, it's got a very similar vibe to like, you know, Hitchcock movies that aren't The Birds or Psycho. It doesn't feel like those, but it feels more like North by Northwest and Vertigo, really. Like it feels a lot like Vertigo.
I think Vertigo is what they based it off of more than anything.
Really?
Well, so there's a lot about this movie that they took liberties from other things. What I saw was the camera, the way that he's kind of gets crazy with it sometimes and does those like super fast things. The example I'll give, the first one I think is the taxi.
Yeah.
When it's going, that was very Hitchcocky.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't know if you had researched that.
No, I didn't see any comparisons between Hitchcock and this, but I can definitely like I can see them watching the movie, but I didn't see any other things talking about it.
No, it was just that he wanted it to be more like Hitchcock to pay homage to it because, you know, Scorsese's great. And also a fun fact, he did not know how to end this movie. But we'll get to that one. I just wanted to like throw that out there. But yeah, no, what did you like about the score?
So, the score reminded me a lot of like Clockwork Orange and pretty much any movie that has like a surreal or slightly like adjacent to our normal reality vibe, because this movie feels like it's not set in our world just because of how the series of unfortunate events seems beyond normal capacity.
Okay, so I'll just play off of this. There are two things that I have read, and one of them I agree with, the other one I can kind of say. So like two schools of thought, I guess, with this. So one thing that I read that a lot of people are into is this is actually hell, and he is doomed to repeat the same thing, because one thing that really stood out to me was how much fire plays a role in this. But one person suggested, and then a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon I saw that had the same idea, was that this is basically his chance at redemption, and he is given the chance multiple times throughout the movie and then fucks it up, so he has to, you know, repeat the cycle. And that's why the ending is the way that it is, because he's just, you know, starting a new day and will repeat the cycle again every day because he's trapped in hell. And the other one that I kind of believe is Paul is not a good narrator. He is a unreliable narrator. So the things in this movie are all from his perspective. So the likelihood that they happened is high, but not the way he says it did.
Right.
He might be more at fault for some of the things, and it went slightly different than the way that he remembers it, but he's trying to shape himself to be the better person and be like, this is why.
That makes sense.
So it's a little bit of both. And there's one important scene that we'll talk about that kind of makes me believe the second one more than the first. But what scene do you want to talk about?
I was still talking about the score.
You're still talking about the score? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're okay. No, but I thought the classical music was good because it gave reminiscence to movies like Clockwork Orange and stuff like that. And then the more upbeat stuff really like played into how the movie's like perceived and felt, specifically during the scene where he goes into the Club Berlin. Like, I thought the music there really like it made the energy of that place very it permeated out of the TV. Like, it was just really good. Like, the soundtrack's awesome.
So what you're talking about is the music made that scene feel real and visceral?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. No, I get that. The score was really great. The fact that they mimicked Hitchcock style was good. And I think this movie is a little underrated and kind of a hidden gem.
No, I completely agree.
Because I didn't know that it was by Scorsese until like the second time I watched it, because I just didn't pay attention. But it's great.
Well, I mean, I had never heard of this film until you picked it to watch.
Well, and that's because a coworker of mine who loves film found it, and he goes, dude, have you seen this movie? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? And he goes, watch it. Loved it. And I think the older I get, the more you can kind of relate to it. Just, you know, being out and wanting to go home.
Yeah, being out and like every small thing that happens, it feels like it impacts you in such like a large way.
Right.
Like, I don't know. when I first watched this movie, I had various strange vibes throughout it. Like at one point, I thought it was going to be like a Knock Knock with Keanu Reeves.
The Grindhouse movie from like 15 or whatever.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah.
But at one point, I thought it was going to be like that when he went to their apartment, when he went to Marcy and Kiki's apartment, because of the talks about like the burns, and then she comes in with the candle and he sees the burn cream and the book about the burns. Like, I know you talked about fire being a prominent thing, but there are so many different movies that while watching this, I was like, oh, I know exactly what's about to happen. Like when we saw the Plaster of Paris dude, I was like, oh, that's an actual person, and these girls are going to Plaster of Paris, Paul or Griffin Dune.
Well, Paul
is the character's name, but Griffin Dune's the actor.
So speaking of him, Scorsese told him before filming to sustain from sex and sleep the entire time, so that way you can have more of like a psychosis feel.
Yeah.
Which you can kind of see it because he does go a little crazy sometimes, which I thought was funny.
No, absolutely.
So I just wanted to throw this out here because I didn't know this, but it came across in my research. The first 30 minutes of this film are 100% based off of a radio artist named Joe Frank's 1982 NPR Playhouse monologue called Lies. And some of the dialogue and plot elements are lifted verbatim from it, like when, Paul meets Marcy in the deli, the bagel and cream cheese paperweights, Paul calling Marcy the same night, Paul losing his money, Macy being raped by Marcy. Why did I say Macy? Marcy being raped by a former boyfriend, came down the fire escape, and Marcy being married to the man who likes to shout out "Surrender, Dorothy." Which we'll talk about that one. And it was so bad that Joe Frank actually sued the producers and then won.
That's insane.
Yeah, because it was just ripped off verbatim from it. But I think it was intentional because a lot of this movie has stuff like that in it. So I feel like this was intentional. They just didn't want to pay him for it.
Right.
And then he sued him.
And won.
He won. Well, yeah, because, But I thought the cream cheese and paperweights.
I thought that was an interesting thing.
I mean, their whole meeting was interesting. And it's kind of funny because I think he's asleep. It looked to me like he was asleep whenever they met the first time, like he had dozed off reading the book. Paul, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, Marcy's like, hey, that's a good book. And then he doesn't respond. And she's like, I like your book. And he goes, huh?
Yeah, it was The Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller, right?
Yeah.
I haven't read it. Have you?
No, but apparently it's a good book.
Yeah.
Because they talk about it, so...
Yeah, no, I did a little research on it for the podcast because I felt like throughout this whole movie, I felt like there was something I was missing, like some underlying plot or narrative that was just like I wasn't understanding. But the more I looked into it afterwards, I don't think there was, because I think that this movie is more of like a journey, because where it starts is kind of irrelevant, where it ends is kind of irrelevant. The part that matters is how you got from point A to point B, which in this movie it was point A to point A. But yeah.
So I'm going to argue with you and say that the beginning does matter because he goes out on a whim to do this.
Yeah.
Like he even says this is not something that he normally does. He just, wants to meet a girl, get laid. That's the end of it.
That kind of reminds me of the beginning of Eternal Sunshine.
Basically, just not as weird. He didn't go about it as like weirdly. But at the same time, you look at it and everything that happens is, I think, set up when he is talking to Kiki, the roommate. Because Kiki is the one that starts talking to him about, which I thought was like a really, really funny scene when she's talking about the scars.
Oh yeah.
Like, like he goes, you have a nice body. And she goes, thanks, not a lot of scars. Some people have a lot of scars.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck?
So, interesting that you brought that scene up, because I was going to bring this up, because I know you mentioned that the two major thoughts on this movie are that Paul's in hell or he's an unreliable narrator. However, I think that it's probably more of he's an unreliable narrator and he was drugged. And I think so because of this scene, or because of most of the scenes in the apartment with Kiki and Marcy, because she brings him a drink and he's like, oh, I don't know. And she's like, not drink it.
I mean, I can see that. I wondered sometimes if Kiki's even real.
I mean, I think Kiki's certainly real because he runs into her at Club Berlin with her boyfriend, and she throws the keys down to him multiple times.
Does she though? Because when she meets him at Club Berlin, you could argue that the music was loud because he's like sitting there trying to yell or whatever, and they can't hear. But at the same time, nobody else is talking to them. They're just kind of sitting there, not really talking to each other at Club Berlin.
It looked like they were talking to each other. It looked like, unless I'm just misremembering, it looked like his arm was like around her and they were like leaned in on the table talking.
So were they even real?
I mean, they might not be. None of this might be real. Like, all of this could just be like a hallucination or a dream sequence.
I think that she's real. I don't think that June is.
June is the one with the ice cream truck, or is she the waitress?
So this is like super funny, but I wrote down the name. June is Virginia Bloom at the very end of the film, which if you look at the list of like, prominent actors and actresses, she's billed like third or whatever, even though she doesn't appear in the movie until like an hour and 22 minutes.
So she's the ice cream truck lady.
No, the ice cream truck lady is Gail.
Okay.
June is the one when he goes back to Club Berlin and it's
Oh, the older woman?
yeah, who does the exact same thing as Kiki
Okay.
because she's a plaster worker or whatever.
An artist.
Plaster artist. The same as Kiki, makes the same things as Kiki does.
I mean, they're similar. I wouldn't say they're the same necessarily.
I mean, Kiki also doesn't wash his shirt like she says that she does, just gives him a new shirt. Kiki and Marcy never interact. Like, she falls asleep, and then Marcy comes in. Marcy does acknowledge her, but again, this is an unreliable narrator. Because when Marcy goes to the bathroom is when Kiki comes in and goes, "Did she come back?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Cool," and walks off. And then you never hear from her. They're never in the same room together except in that one scene where she comes in and looks at her, and then that's it. Then they go to the room.
I mean, that's fair.
Which, I mean, I'm just, throwing things out there. I think she is real.
No, I mean, I do too.
I don't think June is.
I mean, I don't know. I think that June might be because she plasters him and hides him from the angry mob.
Right. But then the thing is, was the angry mob ever real?
I think so. I think that in the event that he's not hallucinating, they are real because the robberies are real. Because the bartender's like, yeah, he's came by 4 times already today to tell me about various break-ins in the area. So in the event that he's not hallucinating, because my thoughts are either this is meant to be a surreal, not realistic movie, which obviously it is, but the deeper meaning has never been outright explained by any of the writers or the director or anything. So because of that, my personal belief is that this whole movie is an unreliable narrator plus Paul's hallucinations from being drugged. And I think that up until he gets to the apartment and talks to Kiki, everything that happens is basically real. And I think that everything after he interacts with Kiki, after he gives her the massage, falls asleep giving her the massage, and wakes up when Marcy gets there, I think everything after that is a little bit wonky, and I think it's a little bit wonky because he's high and unreliable.
I can agree with that. Because when Marcy comes in and wants to have sex with him.
She doesn't want to have sex. She just wants to talk.
No, she does. She does want to have sex with him.
She just wants to talk. She's very, very apparent or very open about that.
In the beginning, because this is what sets it up, because in the beginning, when they are talking, she just wants to talk because she's nervous. The things that she talks about, she talks about being sexually assaulted by an ex-boyfriend that came through the fire escape, and then she kind of fell asleep during it or whatever. That freaks him out. And then she says that she's currently married, but he's overseas right now doing business or something because he's a screenwriter and has a fascination with The Wizard of Oz, which you could also compare The Wizard of Oz to this movie as well.
I was going to say that.
Okay, well, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But, and then she's like, I don't want to be with him though, because he screams, surrender Dorothy when he comes.
So see, that's what I was waiting for you to say again before we started talking about how this is potentially a Wizard of Oz, like, retelling almost.
Well, we'll get to it.
No, I know we can. I'm sorry. But continue.
So, but then you also have to say that Tom, the bartender, is also in a relationship with her.
Yeah, he's a boyfriend.
Or is he?
I mean, he thinks he is.
But so when she leaves, her mood shifts. And she's kind of like winking at him or whatever, grabs the burn ointment, which I don't think that was burn ointment. I don't think it was. I think that he brought up the idea of burns because he was talking about the burn ward story to Kiki. Okay.
Well, I mean, so no, it might not have actually been burn ointment. I'm sorry, continue.
Let me finish my thought, buddy. So he brings up the story of burn, and then she is sitting in her robe and he sees something on her leg. And then he sees the burn ointment that's been prescribed to her. And then he sees the burn book. And then she picks it up and leaves. I don't think it was burn ointment. I think that it was ointment for something else. Whatever it was doesn't matter. The reason that he thinks it's burn ointment is because he has talked himself out of having sex with her because of the things that she has said. So when she comes back into the room with the candle and then turns off the nightlight and starts making out with him, ready to have sex with him, he immediately goes, "Do you want to smoke a joint?" And then she's kind of like, "I guess we can do that." And then as soon as he starts smoking, he immediately says how it's not actually weed. And then starts, kind of like belittling her, saying, "How could you buy basically oregano, you idiot? It's not Colombian." And then, "I came here for paper plaster cream cheese paperweights. And you have yet to show me a paper plaster cream cheese paperweight. What's the deal? What I came here to buy." And then she's kind of like taken aback by it. But he uses that as an escape to get out of having sex with her because now he's making it her fault because he psyched himself out of it. So it's not really, burn cream because of that. And then he just gets mad and walks out, using that as an excuse because you hear her crying to Kiki, going like, "I don't know what I did." So that was my thought process with that.
I mean, that's fair.
Because he's an unreliable narrator and it was 100% his fault. But from his perspective and the way that he is telling the story, it is her fault.
Right.
And maybe she actually had those occurrences. Maybe she didn't. Again, he's an unreliable narrator. So it's really hard to know.
That's fair.
But yeah, you want to talk about how this is a Wizard of Oz?
No, I mean, yeah, but no. I agree with you that the burn cream probably isn't burn cream, but that's once again because I think he's an unreliable narrator. In the event that it is burn cream, though, I think they were planning to do some like knock thing with him, and they're gonna burn him with the fucking candle.
Again, I like your perspective and your thought process, but I really don't think that
To me, it feels like they're trying to trap him there because she offers him the joint before like she even goes to the bathroom. She's like, "Oh, there are joints." But then when she comes back in and he's not on the bed, she's like, "Why aren't you on the bed?"
Well, that could have been just because she's a manic person.
Or it could have been because she was plotting to murder him.
I mean, yeah, I guess I can see it.
Like, so Paul is paranoid.
Right.
It is perfectly like reasonable to assume that a lot of the things that occur to him aren't actually real because he's paranoid. But it feels like everyone in the movie who isn't him are connected in some way, be it by having a tattoo that matches the keys or working for, the bartender that is dating, Marcy, or roommates with, each other. Everyone's connected some way. Even Cheech and Chong's characters are connected because they've purchased things from Kiki.
Neil Pepe?
Yeah. But so, I don't know. It just feels like it's all paranoia, but there's like a web of interconnected like stuff.
Well, no, because everything is interconnected. Everything that he does that whole entire night is connected.
Yes.
And the reason it is connected is because Marcy is friends with Kiki. Kiki sells the cream cheese paperweight to Julie.
The lady at the end. No?
The waitress.
Oh, it is the waitress. I'm sorry. They're both blonde.
They're different people, though.
Right. I'm sorry. You shouldn't have two people with the same hair color in the same movie.
Anyway, sells it to her, and because of her, the angry mob goes because he left to go get his keys. And then he runs into the bartender, Tom, who is wanting him to go get his keys or whatever so he can give him the register for the money. And then when he comes back, Marcy has killed herself. And what else is there? So he kills himself, and then he is upset because of that. And then you have Gail, who is in the movie and turns on him because of what Julie has done by plastering his face everywhere, saying that he is the
Burglar.
which also, just getting off track, so you have Gail and Tom that appear briefly in the same scene, which is outside the diner when he's giving him his keys back or whatever.
Right.
So Tom is John Hurd and Gail is Catherine O'Hara.
Okay.
Do you know what movie they played in
I don't.
after this?
I have no idea.
They're the mother and father of 1990 movie, Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, Home Alone?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea.
So they actually started a movie together after this, even though they shared the screen for like that brief moment. I just thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's your little trivia fact. But yeah, they're all connected because of that. And then you could also say June is connected because June does the same thing as Kiki. And it wouldn't be hard to say that Kiki and June know each other because they're artists in the same scene. And then Kiki goes to the same club that she's in, which apparently she lives in. But my thing is, when he comes back and the whole place is in, except for the bartender.
Oh, the club.
The club, yeah. But so I'm like, okay, I don't know about that one. And the angry mob comes. But yeah, it's like all connected. But you're right, he is paranoid and everything is loosely connected to each other. But is it connected to each other, or is he just imagining that it's all connected to each other? Because what if Tom's girlfriend did kill herself in the same fashion that Marcy did, but they're not related? And what if the tattoo that he sees on her, which was the tattoo of the keychain that was on the keys of Tom, was imagined because he also imagined that there were scars on her thigh or like a burn or something, and there wasn't.
There not being burns on her is part of what made me think that they were plotting against him.
What do you mean?
Because in the event that it's actually burn cream, and in the event that it was actually a book about burns, and neither of them have like burns on them, because you basically see all of Marcy's body when she's dead and he's examining her.
Which was kind of fucked up.
Agreed.
Oh, spoiler alert, he comes back to apologize and she kills herself.
And you see most of Kiki's body pretty much every scene she's in, because she generally doesn't wear much and she doesn't have burns.
Right.
So in the event that it's actually burn cream and it's actually a burn book, it just leads me to believe that they were plotting against him.
Then why didn't I wrote his name down. Horst, who's played by Will Patton.
Yeah, Kiki's boyfriend.
When she's tied up because he thinks that they've been burglarized by Neil and Pepe, why does he go, this the guy? And she's like, yeah. He goes, not nice what you did. Why doesn't he just immediately grab him and tie him up? Because obviously he knows how to tie people up. You can see by the bondage restraints, because he even comments on it and goes, man, are these guys like sailors or something? These are really good. How long did it take? But he knows how to tie the knots, and obviously he would overpower Paul in any given situation.
Is that obvious?
I would say it's obvious. Paul's kind of weak compared to him because he's just a word processor. We don't know what Horst does. Probably kills people. But why didn't he just grab him? And
I mean, I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it makes sense.
I'm saying your logic's a little flawed.
All logic regarding this movie is a little flawed because it's intended to not make perfect sense.
Yeah, which is the beauty of it.
Yeah, so in every argument in any direction for this movie, unless it's just this is what happens in the movie, any assumption or anything is going to be flawed or illogical because it's intended to be.
Right. But yeah, no, I enjoyed that aspect of it, like the interconnectivity, but that's why I picked this movie, so we can have this discussion, because the logic is so flawed and leaves a lot open to interpretation based off of things.
Yeah.
But part of the ending, the original ending that did not go over well with test audiences, by the way, is he just stays in the plaster mold, and that's it.
So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was the original ending, and the test audiences were like, that's not good, so they had to come up with something, and Martin Scorsese didn't know how to end it until someone suggested jokingly, well, why doesn't he just show back up to work the next day? So they looped it all.
Yeah, which I thought was awesome.
I did too. I thought it was like the perfect ending of him just wanting to sleep.
And going back to the score during the ending scene, it wasn't the same symphony as the first one during like the end credits and stuff. It was a different one, but it was also very powerful. It was a really good way to wrap the movie up, especially with the way it was all shot, because it does like a continuous around the office shot. And that's probably my favorite singular shot in the entire movie. Like, I know you were talking about scenes, and scene wise, I thought that was rad, because just the shot, it was obviously on some kind of tracking device or something, but it was really good.
My favorite shot is the key drop shots.
With the crane? Okay.
Because those were apparently like really dangerous.
Yeah, they only had the crane for like, I think, 2 days of the shooting.
And then when they did it, the danger that he was in was not apparent to him, because Martin Scorsese, after like one take, was like, I don't want to do that again. because it could end very badly. And he goes, "Yeah, let's just do it. Come on, bring up the crane." But I like those shots.
Did you know that this movie was originally 2 hours and 40 minutes long?
Yeah, there was like 45 minutes of cut. Yeah, I believe like 45 minutes is what was cut from it.
Yeah. I don't know. Because the movie was only 90 minutes long, right? Like a little over 90 minutes. I don't know, that's weird. I feel like it should have been more cut because, like I said, one of the things I read says it was 2 hours and 40 minutes, so that would be like an hour and 10 cut. Strange. But did you see any of the, or not see any of them, but did you read or hear about any of the cutscenes?
No, I did not.
So there is a scene, and I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but it was one of Martin Scorsese's favorites, and they cut it because, like, I guess it just didn't fit. But basically what it is Paul and Tom meet each other and on the streets after Marcy's death, and I'm sorry, Tom's like, "Oh, it was my fault," and Paul feels guilty about it. So he's like, "Oh, no, 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 it's not your fault." And then Tom's character becomes really aggressive towards him, which obviously was a cut scene, didn't get to see it, but I feel like that would have been a cool scene.
I feel like this movie probably didn't need to be cut and could have been. I mean, obviously there are probably some cuts that need to be made, but I don't think that was one of them.
I think, well, so the reason they cut it was because they said that it didn't feel right, like tonally or something with as long as it was. Like it didn't have the right vibe because of the comedy they were going for, because this is intended to be very funny, which it is. Yeah. But that's the reason a majority of the stuff got cut, because it changed the tone and didn't make the comedy shine as much as it should.
You gonna talk about how it's the Wizard of Oz?
I mean, kind of, I guess. So basically, the way I could see this being a Wizard of Oz tale is because he's going to a magical faraway place, Soho, which is about 45 minutes from where he lives in New York.
Oh no, because hold on. So, if you take his address,
Which is on 91st.
he's on East 91st Street, right? And Kiki Soho Loft is 28 Howard Street near the corner of Crosby, is what she tells him. That is exactly 5.3 miles away. Do you know how long it would have taken him to walk home?
Most people walk about, 15 minutes a mile?
15, 20.
So, like, less than 2 hours?
An hour and 47 minutes. It would have taken him an hour and 47 minutes, according to Google Maps, to walk home.
So, in the movie, he said it was about 45 minutes away.
Again, unreliable narrator.
That's fair.
Because this just proves it, because I Google Maps it.
Well, that's fair.
Well, that's assuming that that's based off of the information that he gave me in the movie about where he lives and where she lives. Because the cab gets there very quickly.
Well, the cab fare was like $6.50, I think. Yeah. Which we could, look up how much cab fare was in 1985 and have some kind of idea as to the distance that would have been in New York.
Already on it.
Because I just brought it up. But no, how this could be like a Wizard of Oz tale is, he's going to a faraway place where he doesn't know anyone, and it's a quest to get home. Which he's not, going to see the wizard, but he makes various friends, some of which are like cowardly and stuff, because like.
So the only one that I couldn't place was the Scarecrow. I don't know who would be the Scarecrow, because the Cowardly Lion is the guy that thinks that he is a prostitute trying to have sex with him because he's very timid. And I would argue that he becomes the what's his fucking name? The Tin Man.
Oh.
No, the wizard's Gale, 100%.
Okay.
Or no, she's the Wicked Witch of the West, not the wizard. Because she has her, the monkeys on the brooms, which is the mob. She's the Wicked Witch of the West. Oh, he's Dorothy because he wants to go home.
Right.
And he becomes the Tin Man when he is in the plaster. But I can't figure out who The Scarecrow would be, unless the Scarecrow is Marcy.
It would be Marcy because it would go in the order that he met people.
So if you go in that order, then who would be the Tin Man?
I don't know about the Tin Man because the Tin Man doesn't have a heart. So I guess the one who doesn't have a heart could be Kiki realistically.
It was $1.10 the first 1/9 of a mile in 1984, and then it was 10 cents per 1/9 of a mile per 45 seconds.
Okay, that's too much math for me to do right here, right now.
It sounds about right to be 5 miles away. We'll go with that.
Okay.
But no, yeah, that's what I would say, because this is basically a Wizard of Oz telling. Yeah, he would be the Tin Man, because I can't figure out who the Tin Man would be.
That's fair.
You have anything else you want to talk about?
Not specifically. I really like this movie. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend watching it because it's very funny, it's dark, it's very surreal, and it's super interesting.
No, it's a really good movie. I would recommend watching it too. If you haven't, check it out. 1985. If you're into that kind of stuff. If you're a Scorsese fan, definitely check it out because it is a hidden gem in the Scorsese collection. I will say, it's not Goodfellas, Raging Bull. It's better than The Irishman.
Yeah, infinitely.
Infinitely better. And then what was it? Alice, the Alice movie.
I'm not sure.
Can't remember what that is. Anyway, not important.
But no, I don't have anything else. What do you got for Taylor Talk today? Unless you have something else.
No, I didn't have anything else. For Taylor Talk, I just want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Have you ever had an after hours experience?
Have I ever had an after hours experience?
Yes.
So kind of when I was in the Army. So there was this evening in the Army. It was after we'd gotten out of the field, and generally after you've been in the field for a few days, you come out and you're extremely tired. So the adult thing to do after, being extremely tired would be to go home and go to bed, rest, and once you feel better to go out. But that's not what we did. Me and my buddies were like, oh, we should go to a random bar / strip club in, the town that was next to the base we were on. So we go out and we're drinking, and, I end up passing out at the bar because it's just something that I do when I get too intoxicated and I'm extremely tired. And one of my buddies decides that we're going over to his house. So we go over to his house and someone throws up on his couch, which, it's not as nearly as interesting as the actual after hours story, but someone throws up on his couch. And he makes a big deal out of it, so he kicks everyone out of his house who's all super drunk. So we're all trying to find rides back home or back to the post or, whatever to get somewhere else because this guy's belligerent and mad. So I, get an Uber, and I try to get the Uber to get us back onto the post, but I don't know if the Uber driver wasn't a citizen or was missing some kind of paperwork or didn't have a valid driver's license or something. But when we get to the post, they won't let us in the gate. They would let me in because I have my military ID, but they won't let him in to drive me the rest of the way home. So I'm at the front gate, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to give you a ride. You can find one in or you can walk the rest of the way home. So it was about 3 miles away from my barracks to the entrance. So I just did the 3-mile walk, and it was pretty unpleasant because I was still pretty intoxicated and very tired.
That's a good after hour story.
It's not nearly as good as yours or the movie.
What do you mean with mine?
From the beginning?
Oh, yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I've been trying to have my own after hours experience,
Yeah, we should just start going to sketchy places late in the evening and letting whatever happens happen.
Well, I mean, so on Wednesdays I go to the bar, and that's always fun. Play pool. I've gotten a lot better at pool. I can do the thumb thing now, where you shoot it. Not the point. Been learning that shit. But on top of that, on Friday when I went out, I didn't want to go out necessarily, but I feel like I need to go out and do more things to have more cool stories. Because I think about all the shit that we did in high school.
Yeah.
And I go, I kind of want to replicate that. But then there's a part of me that goes, you don't need to necessarily, but you just need to spend time with people and you need to make friends. Because I spent a large portion of my time not doing that and being reclusive.
Yeah.
which goes against everything that I am. I would say I'm a pretty social person.
I mean, I agree with that. I don't know. We had fun last night. We got together and me and my roommates and Taylor, we watched movies. We played a little bit of video games and listened to some music and just basically like hung out. And that was really fun. We had a few beers.
Well, and then see, like, that's the stuff that I'm talking about because I took off for 5 days, right? Well, technically, I took off for 2 days, had 2 days on the weekend, and then today was a holiday
Yeah.
because, Labor Day. And when I took off, the only day I did not do anything was on Thursday because Wednesday night into Thursday morning, I didn't go to bed until like 3 o'clock because I was at the bar. And then I woke up at 9 and started doing shit. I beat Elden Ring.
Very good. Congratulations.
And then that was fine. Go to bed. Friday, I go out with friends to and start bar hopping in downtown Tulsa, which I had never done before. That was fun.
See, I don't like bar hopping in downtown Tulsa.
It was all within the same area though, so you can kind of like hit all the fun ones.
No, I mean, I feel that. I don't know. It's just downtown Tulsa is sketchy. Like, I like to find a place that I'm like comfortable and just chill there.
Well, and see, that was the thing that I liked. Like when we went to Reds or whatever, and they were patting us down to make sure that we didn't have weapons and shit on us. I'm like, oh, this is sketchy as hell. Cannot wait to be here. I was like, oh, this is fun. But it was just shit like that. Going to these like sketchy bars and these clubs that were playing. It was basically like a rave, and I didn't think that I would enjoy that, but I did.
That's good. I'm very happy for you. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, you're welcome. Well, and then dropping a hot dog on the ground and eating it, and then like spitting out gravel because I wasn't realizing what I was doing because I was like fucked up and just didn't want the hot dog to go to waste. And then I bought a homeless woman a hot dog, which was nice.
That's sweet of you, but now you're stroking your ego about it, so.
Yeah. Well, then she just like disappeared because I was gonna talk to her, I guess, and she just disappeared. It was kind of funny.
Interviewer for the podcast, be like, before you were homeless, back when you had a home,
what did you do?
What movies did you enjoy watching?
That was
good. Mean. I'm sorry.
Well, and then Saturday.
Ed, I'm sorry. We aren't supposed to call them homeless anymore. They're the unhoused, sir.
Same thing. So then on Saturday, I go and completely forget that I'm having lunch with my mom. Totally forgot. I thought that it was on Sunday.
Sunday.
So then I go and do that, and then immediately drive to Tulsa because it's pre-release. Spend from 2 o'clock until like 9 o'clock doing magic, and then immediately go to the bar after that.
So do you
and
know
get fucked up?
Do you know any cool card tricks since you do magic all the time?
Yeah, I do. It's called 52 card pickup. But no, so then I immediately go to the bar, and then I think I left the bar like 1 o'clock.
That's
I was out late. And then I come home, go to bed, wake up on Sunday, try to clean a little bit, and then come over and hang out with you once your raid is finished, which, going to give you a shout out real quick because your DC Legends group got World's Finest, I think is what you called it.
Yes, sir, we did.
I'm just going to call it Worlds, but it's, basically the same thing. You got like the World Cup.
Yeah, we were number 1.
Out of everybody that plays. So congratulations on that one. Just want to give you a little shout out and know how proud of you were.
There are a couple 100,000 players, so the fact that we are first is pretty impressive. It took a lot of hard work and dedication.
But you got there, and that's the important part.
Absolutely.
And
with the help of my team, obviously. It wasn't just me at all.
No, you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
But then I came over at like 7:30 and then started, doing things with you and your roommate, watching movies. I drink a lot this week. Just now realizing that, like way more than I should have.
It's okay. We can sign you up for an AA meeting.
That's okay. And then even with that, I, got drunk, came home, woke up.
Well, you should rephrase that. You were good by the time you left.
I should rephrase that. Yes, I did not drink and drive.
Yeah,
I was sober.
Yeah, by the time you left, everyone was sober.
Yeah, was I drunk at one point? Yes. Did I stop myself so I wouldn't have to spend the night? Yes.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that in case anyone just heard that line because I wouldn't allow you to drink and drive.
Well, I wouldn't allow myself to drink and drive. That's why once I started feeling it, I was like, oh, I need to stop. So then we just had water, but that was fun. And then today I went and
I don't think the listeners care about your week.
Hung out with friends and then started doing this. So yeah, it was like everything. I've gotten like no sleep and shit, but I'm trying to have my own after hours experience is what I was getting at with this.
No, I know. I was just being mean.
No, I know you were. So I guess with that, that's all that I have.
That's all I have. Before we go, I just want to say, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram,
We have a
All of-
TikTok now.
We have a TikTok now. All of the links for everything are in the description of the episode. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us. Our Gmail account is 2idiots1podcast2022@gmail.com.
Not 2idiots1podcast@gmail.com. That is not us.
It is 2idiots1podcast2022@gmail.com. And if you have any comments or suggestions or anything that you don't want to like publicly say, you can send it to us from an anonymous email address. We won't, dox you or anything. We won't release your email. But, we want to make the show better for everyone. We want our listeners to be happy and feel like we're engaging them. So if there's anything else you guys want from us or would like to see, please feel free to reach out. And then this has been Bailey.
Well, hold on. Before we do that, I do want to read this review that we got, our newest review. I know we've been doing that. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry.
So this is from August 19th. It is St. Jariah. Jariah? Yeah, Jariah. I think it's Jariah. I'm really bad at pronouncing things. So if that's not your name, really sorry. But it was 5 stars, phenomenal. And this was very sweet and touching whenever I heard it. Taylor and Bailey's voice sound like butter in my ear whenever they're deep in conversation. All in all, they're both two knowledgeable and open-minded individuals that have interesting and in-depth conversations about new and popular films. I hope to see this channel continue to grow.
I really appreciate that. That's very sweet.
I did too. I'm glad that we sound like sticks of butter serenading your ears.
I mean, yeah. Silky smooth.
Silky smooth butter all in your ears. So if you want some ASMR butter content, click the link below. Start an OnlyFans with that. But no, that was really sweet. Thank you for that. We
No.
enjoy reading these comments.
Absolutely. I very much appreciate it.
And I think every now and then we can shout them out if that's cool with you. Because I've just, like you said, I want us to be engaged with our listeners. And if you follow us on Instagram or Twitter or the Facebook group now, we will send you a message.
Not necessarily the Facebook group.
Yeah, not really the Facebook group. But if you follow us on Twitter and Instagram, expect a DM from us.
Yeah.
A nice, sweet, personalized message where we tell you how much we love you and you'll be like, I don't want to follow you anymore.
Yeah, where we make you very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's the price you pay when you follow us. Because once you follow us, you can't unfollow. We're called the Hotel California for a reason.
Why are you just making stuff up? On that note, this has been Bailey.
This has been Taylor.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.